So Shauna, what we're making today is one of my favorites, and I know it's one of yours.
What is it?
Mary Berry's Bakewell Tart.
Oh, I love Mary Berry, and I love the Bakewell Tart.
The first time I had ever heard of a Bakewell Tart was on the Great British Baking Show. It was this pastry crust, and then inside you had a layer of jam, of raspberry jam, and then a frangipane, I believe that's how they say it in Britain, frangipane filling, which is ground almonds, sugar, butter, eggs. What could be wrong with that?
Nothing.
And it puffs up when you cook it to this delicious, a little crisp on the outside, and then the middle is puffy and soft, and then you've got that layer of jam. I think it's the perfect dessert. It could be.
It very well could be.
To me, and to you.
Yeah.
And to others. So if you've never had one and you've never seen one, you need to check out this video so that you can discover why we're going on and on about this tart. We are going to blind bake this pie crust, tart crust. Baking this without any kind of filling in it so that it will be more crisp when you finally put the rest of the pie in. So the way you do that is you take a piece of parchment paper or wax paper, or really that's it, parchment paper or wax paper. And then you want to put something heavy in here, or heavier in here, to hold the crust down while you're baking it so it doesn't puff. So you can buy pie weights, you can buy pie chains, or you can use dry beans, which is what I'm going to do. We're going to put some pinto beans in here on top of this parchment paper. Spread it out. And then we'll put it in our preheated oven. And we've preheated it to 395 to blind bake it for this recipe. We are going to cream some butter and sugar. So one of the things about Mary Berry's recipe, and this is her recipe, if you aren't familiar with her, she was a judge on the Great British Baking Show. This is, she does everything in grams, which I would encourage you to do if you like baking at all, because it really turns out a more consistent kind of result if you weigh it as opposed to measure it. So I've got this small digital scale here. You can get one for about 15 bucks, and it does make your life easier, but it's not a requirement. So we're going to start off with 150 grams of butter, which is 5.5 ounces.
How much is a typical stick around?
The typical stick is 4 ounces. So you might have to do a little math if you don't have a stick that has little lines on it, which I think they mostly do. So I'm going to go ahead and weigh that stick of butter. That's 113 grams. To make my life easier, let's do it this way. We're going to just take the bowl, put it on the scale, tare it so it's not including the weight of the bowl, and do it that way. So that's 110 grams. And I've got my little butter cutting station here. So next we need 150 grams of granulated sugar. And so I'm going to tare this so that I don't have to do math in my head. And we're just going to add this till it's 150 grams. Again, that's 5.5 ounces. Finally, or not finally, but next we have almond flour. Or ground almonds. You can grind almonds yourself if you'd like, or you can buy almond flour, which is pretty widely available at this point, since a lot of people use it for keto recipes to make crusts for a keto dessert or breaded tender or something. So one thing I want to show you here is you want this kind of almond flour. It's very fine. It's fine, it's fluffy. You can also get an almond flour that is a little coarser, and it just the texture doesn't turn out the same. So you want it to be like that. This is labeled as super fine. So we want 150 grams again, 5.5 ounces. Last, we have, I like to use vanilla in this. Mary Berry's recipe uses almond extract, but I use vanilla. I think either one will work. A teaspoon. So we have blind baked our tart shell in the oven with the weights for 15 minutes. And then we took the weights out and let it bake for an additional 5 minutes to dry out the crust a little bit more. And now we are going to spread raspberry jam on the bottom. Mary Berry's original recipe calls for jam that you make as part of the tart recipe. But yeah, I'm not doing that. Not today. I got some delicious raspberry jam at farmer's market, and it is delicious.
Well, someone made it homemade.
Someone made it, just not me. I would rather make the pie crust than the jam. So you want about 3 to 4 tablespoons is what I like. You want a layer, but you don't want it to be thick. Kind of as much as you would put on a peanut butter sandwich, probably. And now we are going to spread it on top. So you can see it's pretty fluffy and creamy. And we just want to put it evenly across the tart. And you've got to be kind of gentle about it when you're spreading it out. Trying to get it to the edge of the crust, but kind of almost like when you're frosting a cake, you don't want to use too much pressure and break through and get the jam on the top, because that's not what you're going for here. So, what do you think, Shauna?
I think it looks amazing. I can't wait to taste it. I had no idea what frangipane looked like.
It looks like this. And you're like, how could this possibly become a good dessert? But just you wait.
I know it does.
Next, what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to put a few sliced almonds on the top if you have some. This is not a requirement. I just think it looks nice. So now we're ready for the oven. We've turned it down to 350 degrees. All right, so we've got our tart out of the oven. It cooked at 350 for about 25 minutes, 25 to 30, right in there. You want to pull it out when it's golden brown like this, and when the top is, the center is just about set when you jiggle it.
It looks amazing.
Let y'all take a look at it here. So now what we're going to do is we're going to sprinkle just a little bit of powdered sugar on top because it looks really pretty. You want to let it cool a little bit before you do that. Otherwise, the sugar will just kind of melt in there and you won't see it. So the easiest way to do this is to take just a strainer like this, little wire strainer, and put the sugar in it. And then you can just shake it like this. Until it's got as much as you want. Here we go. Bakewell Tart. All right, let's give it a shot. So the crust is really crispy and the filling is very creamy.
That's so good.
Oh, wow. My favorite part of the Bakewell Tart, I mean, the almondy, creamy, buttery filling is really, really good. But the jam gives it just the right hit. Because if you use that raspberry jam, especially, I think it's important because it's just a little bit sour. So it's a nice counterpoint.
Yeah.
I've tried it with other kinds of jams, and like strawberry or a mixed fruit jam, and it's just not quite right. It's just, that's too sweet to me. It needs kind of that sour hit. I made it with cranberry jam before, and that was pretty delicious. So that works too, especially if you make it for Thanksgiving. Cranberry goes really well.
That sounds lovely.
Yeah, you're gonna have to make your own cranberry jam though. That's the only problem there.
Oh yeah,
It's okay. It's okay.
It can be done.
It can totally be done. So I hope you'll try a Bakewell Tart. Give it a shot. It's really pretty easy to make, don't you think?
Yes.
Yeah. And your friends will be asking you for it for their birthdays too.
That's right.
So thanks for joining us. Like and subscribe for more, especially if you prefer pie.